Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the Russian Tier 8 Premium Heavy Tank, the IS-3 Auto, or just the IS-3a. It's not an autoloader, it's not the unskinned version of the Stockade, as a lot of people will probably think. It is the unskinned version of the Fatherland. So this was like, I'm pretty sure this was the first IS-3 Premium that came into the game a very long time ago. This is a very old tank, and it did get buffed a wee while ago. I do have another video on the channel, I think from back like March, where I went over what gets changed on this tank, but there was a lot of things that changed about it that basically brought it up to the new world, essentially, where it, it got better accuracy, better turret armor, like, well, the roof hatch on top got buffed a little bit, better dispersions, all that sort of stuff, and it just made the tank a little bit better. It also meant that some of the other tanks like the Corvettes and the Gloria IS-5, etc. got buffed as well, which meant that the buffs to this tank were like, oh, it's nice that you've made it good, but you've made everything else that was already way better than it even better, which is kind of sad for the IS-3a. But again, that doesn't mean it's a bad tank. It's not a bad tank at all. The buffs to it just made it pretty damn nice. It's just sad that while they did buff it and make it nicer to play and make it more usable, they also made its competition that were already way stronger than it even stronger, right? Which is just like, oh, sad times. But you can get this for free in the Season Pass, which is quite nice. Or, well, with the Season Pass, I should say, rather than just for free. You can get this tank, which is a pretty decent tank for making some silver at Tier 8. And, like I say, it can be a pretty good time. If you've played the IS-3, you pretty much know what you're getting with this tank. And, like I say, it is damn nice to play, because the shell velocity on this tank is fantastic. It's like 1400 to 1500 meters a second on the 8 PCR standard you get, which, is a beautiful thing, especially for Russian tanks when they tend to be just that little bit derpier. I mean, the gun handling is pretty derpy because it's like, what, 0.42 accuracy or something like that on the IS-3a, which, yeah, it means you can miss shots here and there, which can be a little bit annoying, but for the most part, since it's a lot better than the 0.46 it used to have. Add to that, obviously, when they buffed the aim time, they made it like 2.8 second aim time as well. That was beautiful for the gun, because it meant that you didn't spend forever aiming and then miss anyway. It means that you're more likely to... Actually, it got buffed to 0.4 accuracy. It just means that you hit the target far more often and you don't spend an age aiming. Because that's the problem with this tank. That's what it used to be anyway, is the fact that you did spend forever, and I mean forever, with the 3.4 second aim time it used to have aiming, and then with the 0.46 accuracy it used to have, the gun would just go, okay, I miss now. And that was deeply frustrating. But that doesn't really happen too much anymore, and you can hit thin shots like that on that Minuteman. So, yeah, it's a nice thing for the IS-3a generally. And I'd say for free, well, with the Season Pass, you can't moan. Can't moan at all for it. It's pretty decent to pick up. And like I say, that shell velocity on the APCR is really nice, especially for hitting light tanks like that. 221 pen on the standard APCR rounds is fine. You'll pen most things you're going to face at Tier 8, and quite a lot of the tanks at Tier 9 with that. And if you're really struggling, you can just load the 270 heat pen, which is an absolute thing of beauty as well, because then you can just pen pretty much everything that you face. Is a bit of a problem with being heat, though, in the fact that, your shell velocity gets way worse with the heat. I mean, the shell velocity drops to like 820 meters a second, which is very slow. And it means you really have to make sure you lead your targets. And then there's some tanks that you do still struggle to pen, even though you've got higher pen, purely because even with the 270 pen, you still need to go through their side armor, and the heat rounds, well, they just get absorbed, right? Which is a bit of a frustration. Oh, that shot on that HMH58 was tasty. We like those types of RNG right there. So what do I run in terms of a crew on the old IS-3a? Well, I run pretty much your standard heavy tank crew. I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Trap Mechanic, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Off-Road Driving. Off-Road Driving to help the ground resistances as much as possible, because this tank is a little bit more sluggish than some of the other IS variants. So with the ground resistances, I just try and negate that factor on my engine power, well, on my mobility as much as humanly possible. The gun handling, even though it is 0.4 accuracy and 2.8 aim time now, is still derpy. So I really want to help it as much as I can with the gun perks. The situational awareness, well, the other perks you're going to take all the time, but situational awareness especially you want to take because this thing is blind. It's got 350 meters view range. You really want to buff up the view range if you humanly can, so that you're at least being able to try and spot things, because you still will get out-spotted a lot, but you can try and spot things, which is nice. And then in terms of equipment, I run the advanced loader. Hang on a minute. Thanks gun. That's the derpiness of the gun right there. How did that go over that artillery? Sorry. Equipment. Advanced loader, vertical stabilizers, and optics. The advanced loader to make my DPM 10% better, as always, as you would always want to do in a heavy tank. Vertical stabilizers to, again, make the gun as good as humanly can be. And the optics to be able to make my view range better. And we finished that again with 5 kills, 4.3k damage, the ace tanker, the high caliber, 2012 base XP. Really nice game for the IS-3a there. And yeah, the view range being at 350 is low, and it means that sometimes on some maps where you really need to have pretty decent view range, you will struggle a little bit. But if you do run optics, born leader, food, etc., you do get it up to a pretty decent level anyway, so it's not that horrific. But you really do want to spec to try and get that view range if you can. But some maps, it doesn't really matter too much about your view range. And this second game, we are bottom tier, it's against tier 10s, and we're on Ruinberg. And unshockingly, because Ruinberg's been very high in rotation recently, it's just been Ruinberg, Ruinberg, Ruinberg. And what we're going to do is try and go battle in the city, but we're going to try and just take it a little bit steady, because obviously it is tier 10. And one thing that's changed about Ruinberg is this position here. They've added a little bit extra to that wall. It used to be that you could see this corner where I'm aiming here from that gap in the wall, but you can't do that anymore. That's something that's changed a little bit with Ruinberg. And I say that that's what used to happen. That was this, because this is the original Ruinberg. This isn't Ruinberg War, which is the one that we ended up having predominantly before. Because we had this version, and then we had Ruinberg War. And for some reason, the standard Ruinberg just vanished. It was one of those ones like what happened with Pre 6.0, where we lost a load of maps. The standard Ruinberg did exactly that. And then we just had Ruinberg War. And to be honest, having played this a little bit more now, I kind of prefer the Ruinberg War to this Ruinberg. I kind of do wish we had the PC's version of Ruinberg when they brought it back, because there's a lot of little changes to the map which are really quite nice for the brawling zones and stuff like that, and it makes everything a little bit nicer to use in general on the map. So it's either, well, hopefully one day they'll bring back Ruinberg War, or they'll update to PC's version, or they'll just add a few rubble piles, because it's a little bit sparse and a little bit difficult in places to use your armor effectively in this version of the map. So as you can see, we've taken this position here at F3, and we are firing up into the middle of the map. And again, the middle of the map is where it suffers a little bit from having no cover. Because, well, just look at the shots I've had at the T-32 at the Marat. It's really easy to start firing up into that middle area. And it's especially bad for their spawn. Oh god, that's a Death Star. Oh, that poor Carnarvon. He took the Hesh round for me. Oh no, that poor guy. Oh, that's horrible. I forgot that happened. I pulled back and the Death Star missed me and hit the poor Carnarvon that dropped round the corner. That was never meant for that guy. Oh, he must have been mad. But yeah, that's the thing. Their spawn, the B5 spawn, basically shooting up the FE line is so much easier to shoot the field from the middle on our side than it is to shoot the people on our spawn, sorry, that are at F9. Because just the way that the alleyways are angled, or the town street is angled, it means that you can see very little of that F line from this middle area, as opposed to most of their field area along the D line from where we are. And it's just a little bit unbalanced in that way. But so far, we're up to 2.7k damage. We're now against an M60, who has just finally penned us. We do have to fire heat. As you saw, we bounced the APCR off his lower plate, which I was quite surprised about, because I thought, well, the M60 doesn't really have much armor. I'll be able to pen that, but apparently not. But we are slapping that heat round. This is where the 270 heat pen is pretty damn nice. It just means that you're not absolutely useless against tanks like this. And like I said, I thought 221 would have gone through the lower plate. That was a really stupid shot to take. But I thought it would have quite easily gone through that guy, but we ricocheted that. I think it's probably because it's the APCR and normalization and stuff like that. Anyway, and now I take the... I decided I was going to take the hit to shut down that M60. We're now on half hit points. There is 2 tanks. We spotted the Centauro. We're just looking through the gap, and thankfully we managed to pull back in time to not take the hit. We try and get the heat round through his lower plate, or the APCR round through his lower plate, and as you can see, it was a yellow pen marker, and we ricocheted off of his lower plate. So, once again, we're loading the heat because that's just what you have to do. And we put the shot straight through his upper plate there, because really the Centauro, it's the sort of that little plate there around the middle area that is the weakest point, because it's quite a troll upper plate armor and low plate armor. And we spot the, I think it's a Type 5 or is it a Type 4? It's a Type 5. The Type 5's coming for us, and I'm like, nah, I'm not dealing with a Type 5. That's not happening. And we do actually have shots through this gap at both the Centauro and the T-54E1. Thankfully, the Type 5 chose the other guy instead of me. That was quite lucky, really. And again, we're just looking for the shot we can get into the 54E1, and then we hit the rubble pile there, where most of the reticle was the E1. But we're going to put a shot straight through the turret cheek there of the T-54E1. Just making it as hard as possible for him to actually get the shot in, because you can see he can shoot my engine deck. And the game is over just like that. And we finished the game with the victory. 3 kills, 4.9k damage, 476 assistance. Ace Tanker, the Sniper Medal, 2,300 base... well, nearly 2,300 base XP. A really nice game for a Tier 8 heavy tank in a Tier 10 game. It's always nice to have that sort of decent game when you are bottom tier, especially in a Tier 8 heavy tank where your armor generally means absolutely nothing. But yeah, the IS-3a, you're going to get it for, well, I hesitate to say for free. It's in the Season Pass, which is basically free because you get your 2,000 gold back throughout the Season Pass. And yeah, you're going to pick up this tank, which is it's a pretty decent tank. It's not the best, like I say, it's not the best out there of the IS variants, but it's pretty decent. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!